World Association for Sustainable Development, WASD, is a unique global forum. Not only that brings people together from all over the world, but also it has been held in major cities all over the world to discuss key issues relating to world sustainable development. This year, 2013, WASD held its 11th International Conference in London at the London School of Economics and Political Science under the theme 10 Years of Sustainable Development, New Multi-Disciplinary Approaches and Methodologies. The conference brought together a wide range of academics, researchers, development practitioners and policy makers from all over the world to participate in a forum that allowed them to share experiences, develop innovative approaches, and create partnership to enhance knowledge sharing and international scientific cooperation. And this is the summary of keynote speakers presenting their papers.
What I'm going to be talking about today is one of the largest projects we have called the Global Resource Observatory, looking at data and trying to connect that data into strategic decision makings for mainly country level. So that's finance sector and governments. And this is more of an economics-led sort of view of the world along with mathematical modelling. And then we link that into behavioural science about how to encourage people to take up regulations and to put in place behavioural change programs to engage the community. So taking a step back about what I mean by sustainable development, because while it's been around for around 40 years, as a general discussion within government, it still means lots of very different things. So looking at a key problem, the so what, why do we care more about sustainable development now possibly, such that it's leading to action, such that we are getting city planning that takes into account sustainability, or government regulation that's starting to take more account of sustainability than it did when this started in the sort of international discussion 40 years ago. So the systems view of sustainable development, it includes a number of different issues. Most of these are managed by different government departments, mostly managed by different businesses and the different asset classes in finance. So it's energy, food, water, land, metals, social mobility and health, capital availability and environmental loading, including climate change.
Not too long ago, I saw a snippet from the Footprint Network. It says there are measures of ecological footprint. It says humans have used up the natural resources the earth can provide for the year. That was way back, how many months ago? A few months ago. And then I thought, who are these humans? And then kept using the word we. And I said, who are we? Who are the humans? Do we share the same aspirations? Do we share the same views? And I thought, well, interestingly, I we'll probably need to probe this a little bit more to see what exactly we're talking about. And in this instance, I've been traveling a lot, actually, through my travels through West Africa and Southern Africa. And I thought, well, of course, from our previous research, we know that there are contentions, there are contestations, there are serious tensions in how we frame discourses about sustainable development. But I thought perhaps on a simple idiosyncratic basis, using a sample of convenience, I needed to tense up, probably see what people are really saying. So I chose 3 groups ranging from people I met in Ghana, Accra, in Nigeria, Namibia, and Southern Africa. Classify this into 3, as you could possibly see. The youthful population, these are people who are already students and undertaking postgraduate students. And my whole idea was to have a feeling, a sense of what they really understand by sustainable development. And this is critically important because, as you very well know, the MDG is coming to an end very soon, 2015, I suppose. And there is an argument for SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. So whether the MDG is going to be collapsed into SDG, nobody knows. But that discussion is going on, which, again, I will encourage this August gathering to begin to perhaps take a position paper about our contribution to framing that goal, because the chance, that window of opportunity is still there. So
because some of the earlier research had found that corruption levels really did have an impact on economic development. And it hindered development because people overspent in different places, and if you have corruption, it's not necessarily spent in the ways that will really help society as a whole, as we were talking about, or do the best for the city, but will line people's own pockets in one way or another. And I like the bottom here, which says that many articles have really led to the status of received wisdom that corruption adversely affects economic growth. And we have some other people that went along and studied it, and then I quote my own paper from last year, which they appear to be linked, but the direction and the relationship was very puzzling. It didn't go directly as I had expected it to go. And one of the things that I looked at, perhaps there were various moderating or intervening variables. And in the discussion of my paper last year, several people suggested things I should look at. So that's what I did during this last year. When people suggested things that should be considered, this is what I did in this paper. Now, when we look at corruption, one of the things the definition by the UN was the abuse of public office for private gains. And the most common form, of course, is petty bribery. And this is where people accept the grab. And the institutions most commonly involved, which I think is very interesting, is police is number one. And then you have your registry and permit services, your judiciary, of course, where you have pay off the judges and this kind of thing. And then you have customs, of course, if you want to get things through. And the utilities, which I found was very interesting. This is many times the utilities are involved in corruption.
What I'm trying to do today is basically to look at what we've identified throughout the year in terms of, what are the common sort of like patterns for failures for knowledge management projects, and how we can try to overcome these challenges. So generally, to start with something which is, I always like to start with this when anything to do with knowledge management, because what is knowledge management? If you Google the word knowledge management, you would probably have over 200 description of what is knowledge management. The technical word, think of knowledge management in a certain concept. On the HR and the human side, people think of it in a totally different way. And if you go as far as those excellence models like AFQM and so on, they think about it in a different purpose. Within the project management arena, they think about it in a various way as well. So this is one of my favorite descriptions of knowledge management, and I'm gonna read it out loud. So knowledge management is the behaviors, the processes, standards, and technical solutions that allow you to share and use knowledge to support organizational strategic goals. So everything from individual behaviors all the way to systems being in place, to business processes, which basically would support the organization to utilize the knowledge assets and enrich the internal knowledge sharing.
Since we talk about human settlements, just roughly we have at least 455 cities with 1 million plus, some 1,054 cities with 500, half a million plus, and some 2,851 cities with 150,000 population plus. This is the sort of structure of the Istanbul Declaration on Human Settlements. We have issues related to sustainable human settlements. We have issues to do with, that's half of the document deals with shelter. We have issues to do with good urban governance, enablement and participation. We have issues to do with gender equality, assessing progress, international cooperation, financing shelter and human settlements. And this is only the 15 articles. This is a very thorough and elaborate sort of document telling us what are the problems and what are the actions needed in general. So every city could tailor-made, the action in relation to their local conditions and assisted by what is in this global plan.
These are some pictures from United Arab Emirates. The first one with the round building, it's a headquarter for one of our biggest real estate development company called the Dar. I remember when I was a kid, I used to go fishing in that area because it used to be a creek and a wetland. But all that area been developed, started with late Sheikh Zayed and then developed by this company. The other one is Sharjah city, which one of the United Arab Emirates main cities. And those also in 60s were deserts and also used to be fishermen villages. When it comes to sustainability, human sustainability and well-being are affected. I'm reading because I've been warned about your time, and that you are very precise about time. So I don't want you to kick me and say we are done. Human sustainability and well-being are affected by the way settlements planned and managed. Chapter 10 of Agenda 21 advocates for an integrated approach, the planning, management, and land resources. So I'm using some of what came in the Habitat Agenda and then sustainability and EFC. So these captions, it's from UN. If we look into that, in 2009, UN Habitat issued publication on sustainable cities planning, where, and as we saw in the video, that I think it's time to rethink the issue of building knowledge on sustainable municipal development and adopting guidelines of the UN Habitat. For contemporary city planning practices, it is known that urban modernism models are problematic built form. Most cities has been shaped by early 20th century. And if we look today to the cities, it's been taken another angle where mega developers and mega projects start driving those cities toward unsustainable approaches.
Ecotourism was defined by its impacts, mostly conservation, benefits, learning, engaging, changing behaviors, and all of that. But the problem is that we didn't have any tools to measure these impacts. So how can we say that something is sustainable if we cannot measure it? So what I have tried to do is to develop a general framework for ecotourism, sustainability, specifically designed for fragile environment or protected areas, and verify if it really exists in real life. The second step is to develop a tool to measure it. And now we're moving to our findings. So this is what the conceptual framework looks like. So if I may explain it in a couple of words, it starts by the main thing in protected area, what we have witnessed or what we are proposing is that it's the physical plant that is at the center of any ecotourism activity in protected area. And by the physical plant here, we mean the natural physical plant and the man-made physical plant. This goes through a process of resource management and produces what we call the biophysical effects. On a second level, we also have the operational part, which start by the services and hospitality, specific to the tourism industry. So it goes through tourism management to produce socio-economic impacts. And on the third level, we have the engagement level, or the human factor. So we have the involvement of the different stakeholders, whether they are visitors, local authorities, whatever, and they go into the stakeholder management process in order to produce what we call cognitive effects. So with the cognitive effects, we have the behavioral change. With the socioeconomic, we have, of course, the wealth, the development, the economic part. And with the physical plant or the biophysical effects, we have the ecological impacts. And they all relate together in producing recurrent effects.
So obesity is a very bad news to have, but people can cope with it. But certain type of obesity turn to be really attacking the body, and it brings the comorbidity to it. What is the comorbidity of obesity? Obesity can bring also hypertension, heart problem, and diabetes, and some cancer and stroke. So obesity doesn't come free of charge. It comes with all the family with it, visiting one person and bringing all the type of disease with it. And we have in the world about 300 million people suffering of obesity, their BMI 30 and above. And then 1.1 billion already having overweight. And we have 1.7 billion on the verge of moving from healthy weight to the overweight stage. And therefore, it's getting how many billion human beings on this planet? 7 and plus something. So we are almost a third or more than a third of this 7 billion are suffering from overweight and obesity. And this is really something could be alarming if we are not intervening with the solution. So we call it globesity now. It's global obesity everywhere, every country. And unfortunately, I can see some countries are struggling to bring the obesity rate down. And this is because it's need really, obesity to sort it out, it needs 3 solutions. Which one? The first one is to do physical activity, to be physical active. Secondly is to reduce your food intake, especially sweets and fatty stuff and salty stuff. And the last important thing is to change your behavior. And this is what different textbooks saying, lifestyle change. But without telling me what is lifestyle, it change your behavior. If I see food in front of me in abundance or large quantity, open buffet, I don't really need to have it all on my plate. I just have what I can eat and what I can digest in order to be able to breathe and communicate with my friend and enjoy and so on. But unfortunately, this is not happening.